Annette was already sitting when her husband came into the restaurant. She had been there for 20 minutes, enough time to finish her first glass of wine and wish she had ordered something stronger. But white wine looked nicer on the table. It seemed more proper. It was the right choice for a Southern lady. The restaurant was one of those old New Orleans places that made people feel special while gently reminding them of the past. The lights were low, the tables had white cloths, and the silver in dishes were old and precious. The dark wood was almost black with age. Women in pearls sat with men in jackets, speaking softly, as if their quiet voices were keeping secrets. The waiters moved in a calm, polite way that felt like they had known the guests for a long time, without being too formal. Outside, the street was wet and dark, shining in the windows like smooth black stone. Edward Noble Ellender Haber stepped inside out of the rain and paused. He looked at the tables before seeing Annette. He gave a small nod and walked toward her, weaving between the tables. Annette stood to greet him and, for a moment, thought he might kiss her cheek. But he did not. "Hello, Annette," he said. "Ed." He pulled out a chair and sat down. She sat too. "You look well," he said. "You do too," she replied. But it was not true. His face showed signs of age since she last saw him. There was less ease in his mouth and more tiredness around his eyes. He looked like a man carrying something heavy inside. "I'm sorry I'm late," Ed said. "It's all right. St. Charles was slow." "I know. I got your text." He nodded. Soon the waiter came over. "Good evening, sir. Ma'am, would you like a drink before dinner?" "Glenmorangie straight up," Ed said. The waiter looked at Annette. "I'm fine, thank you." "Very good." The waiter gave them menus. Ed took one. Annette did, too. When the waiter walked away, Annette said, "This is a beautiful restaurant." "It is. I'm glad you picked it." "It's quiet," he said. "And they don't rush you here." She nodded. That said a lot. She looked down at the menu but did not read it. "You said you'd listen," she said. "Yes, I did." He looked up from the menu. "I said I would listen, Annette. I didn't promise anything else." "Yes," she said. "I know." The waiter came back with the scotch. They ordered turtle soup, redfish for him, and veal for her because she couldn't think of anything better. Then the waiter left again. A small candle burned between them in a glass. Annette stared at the candle so she wouldn't have to start talking right away. But finally Ed said, "You asked for this meeting." "Yes." "Yes, I did." "Then speak." Annette folded her hands on the tablecloth. She had not seen or spoken to Ed in over 10 months. During that time, she had thought many times about how she would explain to him why she had done what she did, if he ever gave her the chance. But now that she was here, all those words felt wrong, too planned, like a speech, and maybe too late. "I've thought about what to say to you so many times," she said, "but now I hardly know where to start." "Well," he said, "I think the place to start is that you went on a river cruise to visit the Christmas markets in Germany and France with your friend Marie, and you ended up with 2 men. It was true. Hearing Ed say it made her feel uneasy inside. "I'm sorry, Ed. I'm so sorry." Ed looked her in the eye. "You've already told me you're sorry. I thought this meeting was for you to explain why you did what you did. If we're just here so you can say sorry again, then I'm leaving." He moved as if to stand up. "No, please don't go." He waited. She took a deep breath. "Ed, I'm not going to say I didn't know what I was doing." He said nothing. "I knew. I knew exactly what I was doing." He nodded once shortly. "And I'm not going to say I was drunk or that someone forced me. Nor am I going to say Europe made me do it." Ed lifted his glass of scotch and took a small drink. "Good," he said. She looked down at her hands. "What I want to tell you is what happened to me while I was there. It's not an excuse, just an explanation." He stayed quiet. "When I left here," Annette began, "I left as the person I always was. Your wife, our children's mother, a grandmother, Perry and Simone Bradley's daughter, Lawrence and Hildegard Bradley's granddaughter, and Paul and Michelle Landry's granddaughter." She paused. "And I like to think I was a respected member of our community and a faithful member of our church." Ed set down his glass. "Yes," he said. "You were all those things when you left on your trip." Annette sat silently for a moment. "Ed, I was raised to know how to behave, how to dress and how to act, what to say and what not to say, how not to cause a scene, how not to bring shame on the family if I could avoid it." "Yes," Ed said. I know that's true. Your parents and grandparents did a good job raising you. The waiter arrived with the soup then, and the break felt almost like a small kindness. He set the bowls down and offered pepper. Ed took some, but Annette shook her head. When they were alone again, she said, After high school, I went to Wesleyan, and it finished what my parents and grandparents had started. Then I came home and married you and stepped into a life that seemed made for me. And I fit it very well. Ed broke off a piece of bread and put it on his plate. He looked at her across the candlelight. Yes, you did. At least until now. That stung her. And, he asked, Why are you telling me this? Because over there, she said, everything I was here seemed to disappear. Ed stayed quiet. What do you mean, disappear? Annette opened her mouth, but then stopped. At first, it was just a feeling from being so far from home. She looked down. You were here. The children and grandchildren were here. All of you were together, but I wasn't. I was in Germany, away from all of you. She looked up at Ed. Then I guess I got caught up in the magic of sailing down the Rhine at Christmas. Seeing castles, visiting Christmas markets, getting wrapped up in the holiday fun on and off the ship. She paused. The longer I was there and the more I joined in, the more I felt like I was drifting away from who I really am here. Ed said nothing. She looked down at her soup. And I liked it. Ed took a spoonful and put it down. After a few days, I didn't feel much like Annette Bradley Haber anymore. I felt more like just Anne. And Anne was alive. No duties or spending time thinking about what people expected. Just having a good time. She stopped again. I know it sounds silly. It sounds worse than silly, Ed said. Yes, it does, she said. He waited. She looked down again. Ed, honestly, I felt like I'd stepped out of something tight and heavy and was now free. Something tight and heavy? What do you mean? She looked at him. My life. He stared at her, and she saw a small sadness on his face. Right away, she wished she hadn't said that. The words felt like they had hurt him. Ed, I don't mean you, she said fast. I don't mean the children. I don't mean the family. I mean being me. The tightness of always being who I was told to be and expected to be. Ed sat very still. For the first time in my life, I was somewhere no one knew how I was supposed to be. No one knew whose wife I was, what house I lived in, what spot I sat in at church, or how I should act. She swallowed. No one expected anything from me. She looked up, and there was a strange look on her face. After a few days, I stopped expecting things from myself, too. Ed looked at her. So you thought all your duties were gone? Annette met his eyes. Yes, she said. It's not nice to say, but yes. He gave a small nod. And, she said, I liked it too much, and I let it get out of hand. Ed leaned back a little. You are 56 years old, Annette. I know. You weren't a college girl on spring break. No. You're my wife of 30 years. Yes. The mother of our children. Yes. The grandmother of our grandchildren. Her mouth tightened. Yes. And the lady of our home, which has been in our family for many years. I know. A strong part of our town and church. I'm sorry. His voice changed then. Her voice stayed quiet and calm, but there was more anger now. Tell me how a woman who lived her whole life following rules like respect, honor, and duty ends up in a bed with two men smiling for pictures. Annette closed her eyes. The question hung between them. When she spoke again, her voice was even softer. I think I did everything right for so long that I felt like I owed myself something. Owed yourself what? She looked at him, but didn't answer right away. Some space to be myself, she said. He said nothing. Some space to try things that felt wild and new. Saying that made her feel more ashamed than anything else. Ed watched her face. So that's what you thought? I may not have said it in those exact words, but yes. She looked down at the soup she had barely touched. There was something inside me, something my upbringing kept quiet. It's hard to admit, but it has to be true. She stopped talking for a moment. And Ed, it wasn't only the men. By the time it got to them, something inside me had already come out. I had already started saying yes to things I used to say no to. I should have stopped, but I didn't. Annette paused again. The men were just another thing I said yes to. Ed watched her. Because you liked saying yes. She stared at the candle. Yes. Enough to risk 30 years? At the time, yes. He picked up his drink, but put it down without taking a sip. 30 years with me, he said. 30 years of family life, 2 children, 4 grandchildren, a name people know in Bonaventure, whether they respect us or not. You didn't just leave your small private life, Annette. You broke the order of things for our family and beyond. She lowered her eyes. Yes, I know. And that's what I can't understand, he said. If this had come from some restless woman always pushing boundaries, I could at least see how one life led to the next. But you? He stopped. Annette looked up. I know. He waited. I know. And that's the hardest part, she said. I thought I was safe from being that kind of woman. She paused. And I found out I was wrong. That seemed to affect him more than anything else she had said. And what do you think now? He asked. She swallowed hard. Now I think I confused being well brought up with being truly good. He held her gaze for a moment longer. That, he said, might be closer to the truth. She gave a small nod. How did it start with the men? Like these things usually do, she said. Talking, laughing, teasing. Then some talk that seemed harmless at first but wasn't. With both of them? Yes. You flirted with them? Yes. But not as Annette Hébert. No, as Anne. Did you encourage them? She gave a small, sad nod. I guess I did. But remember, they were Marie's friends. We were all part of the same group. We went to the Christmas markets together. We ate together. We spent time together. Annette stopped for a moment. Ed, we were nearly always together on the trip, sailing down the Rhine, eating, drinking, having fun. And I let things go too far. He breathed out softly through his nose. But did you like the teasing and the flirty talk? I'm ashamed to say yes. How soon before you were with them? Annette twirled a spoon in her fingers. On the 4th day. That was the first night? Yes. And after that? For the rest of the trip? How many nights? 4. He nodded once, as if making a note inside his mind. Did you ever plan to only do it once and stop there? Yes. But you didn't. No. Why? She looked at him and saw he wanted the truth without any softness. Because after I crossed that line, she said, I wanted to say yes every time. Ed leaned back a little. That, he said, hurts. Annette wanted to say sorry but stopped herself. The waiter came to clear the soup bowls and asked if everything was okay. They both said yes. Annette almost laughed silently but kept quiet. The room had a bit more noise now, glasses and dishes making soft sounds. A piano started playing near the bar. A woman laughed quietly at another table. No one was looking their way. In a place like this in New Orleans, people focused on their own food and kept their conversations private. The main dishes arrived, red fish for him and veal for her. The waiter offered more wine. Annette said no. Ed shook his head as well. Coffee later, he said. After the waiter left, Ed began cutting his fish. Tell me about the photos, he said. Annette's hand paused over her plate. What? The photos. Tell me about them. Her throat felt tight. Marie was always taking pictures, she said. You know that. I know what I saw. She took pictures of everything. Markets, churches, streets, food, people. She wanted to capture the trip. And you smiling with 2 men was part of that? Annette did not answer. He watched her carefully. And you smiled for the camera? Yes. Did you know she was sharing the photos? I knew she shared some during the trip, but I didn't stop to think where they would go or who might see them or... No, he said. You didn't think. No, I didn't. He didn't touch his fish for a moment. That one, he said. The picture of you between them under the blankets. Were you just waking up? Or was it after that morning with Claude and Eve? She stayed quiet. And the caption on the picture Marie took the next day. Good morning, friends. Annette closed her eyes. I'm sorry. He put down his utensils. But that's not the picture I hate the most. She looked at him. He held her gaze for a moment, then looked away. The one I hate most is the breakfast photo. The 3 of you sitting together. He looked at her face. The way you looked. Almost happy, he said. He swallowed once. Like those 2 men gave you something special. Ed's words hit Annette hard. She put down her fork. She had barely eaten. I know, she said. And you were right to see it that way. He took a deep breath. Do you know what it felt like, he said, to see those pictures before half the church had even finished their morning coffee? She looked up. No, she said. Not really. No, you don't. His voice was low but heavier now. Our daughter sent me the link to those pictures while I was eating breakfast. I clicked it, and there you were. My wife in a bed with two men, smiling like you had slipped into a different, distant version of yourself. Ed paused. Annette froze. Annette, our daughter was a wreck. Then our son called, asking what you were doing. I didn't know what to say. I had no answers for him or our daughter. They turned to me for comfort, but I had none to give. The first time in my life I couldn't guide my own children. He looked away toward the lamp on the next table, then back at her. Do you know how it feels to sit in church and feel people trying not to look at you? The candle flickered each time the front door opened. No, Annette said. I've received quiet sympathy from people too polite to call it that. Men who brought up business but couldn't hide that they knew. Women who suddenly spoke to our daughter like she was recovering from an illness. Our minister talked to me in a careful way. One he should never have to use. He picked up the water glass, but put it down without drinking. You didn't just hurt me, Annette. You made me a figure for others to laugh at, in front of people I see every day. That hit her harder than she thought. He went on before she could say anything. You humiliated our children. You put them in a painful spot where they had to hate you, defend you, and still try to love you. That's a terrible place to put your children. Her eyes filled, but she stayed silent. And our grandchildren? He said, quieter now. Right now they're too young to understand, but one day they'll hear something. Children always do. Annette stared down at the tablecloth. I know, she said softly. Annette, I want to hear you say it. She looked up at him. Ed, I have let you down, she said. I broke my promises to you. I humiliated our children. I placed a burden on our grandchildren they will have to carry someday. I have hurt our family's standing in the community and ruined my own reputation. He held her gaze. Yes, you have. The waiter passed by and saw enough in their faces to turn away quietly. And when you came home? Ed asked. She looked at him. What were you going to tell me when you came home? When I came home, she said softly, I was going to say as little as I could get away with. So, he said, you were going to hide the truth about your trip. She stayed quiet for a long moment. Not all lies, she said finally. He nodded once. But not the full truth either, right? Yes. So no honesty. Just hiding parts and telling some lies. She looked down at her plate. Yes. He ate a little more. It surprised her that he could still eat. Do you love either of them? He asked. No. Did you think you did? No. Do either of them care for you? No. Then what was it? The waiter poured water for both of them. Neither said thank you. At first it was adventure, Annette said. Then it was fun. Then it turned into wanting something more, just wanting to keep feeling that way. I didn't want to think about myself. Ed looked at her and gave a small nod. I find it hard to believe you just said that, he said softly. She sighed. I know. They sat quietly, looking at each other across the table. Ed, I kept calling it many things, but not what it really was, she said. Freedom, adventure, trying new things, things people say they want to do. But I was wrong, and I knew it. Still, I liked how those men made me feel, so I kept going back. He stayed silent. The waiter came back and asked if they wanted dessert. For the first time, Ed looked at Annette like her choice mattered. Would you like something? He asked. She almost said no, but realized saying yes would keep the mood right. Whatever you want. Bread pudding, Ed said, and coffee. The waiter nodded and left. They cleared their plates and set out fresh spoons. The candle flickered softly. The bread pudding came warm in a shallow dish with sauce and 2 spoons. Ed stared at it longer than he meant to. They still cover it too much, he said quietly. Annette looked at the dish. You always say that? Because it's true, he said. Neither reached for the dessert right away. When the coffee came, Annette looked at Ed across the cups. I need to ask you something, she said. You've asked a lot already, he replied. I know, but I have to ask this. He waited. Why did you choose this place to meet? Really? He glanced around the room, at the lamps, the flowers, the attentive waiters, the quiet voices at other tables. Because this is a calm place, he said. And here, people remember their good manners. He paused. You asked for a chance to talk, and I decided I could give you that. I thought this would be the right place. Annette thought about it. And because you knew I'd understand more than just that. Of course, he said. His honest and hard answer left her feeling numb. Ed said, Go on. I know you still want to say more, Annette said, holding the coffee cup with both hands, even though it was too hot. I want my life back. The words hung between them, clear and simple. Ed cut into the bread pudding and took a bite before putting down his spoon. I know you do. I know I can't have it like before, she said quickly. I'm not so silly to think I can just go back to the house and live like everything is okay. Ed stayed quiet. But I want to come home, she said. I want my husband. If there's still a husband left for me. I want my family. I want to be with our kids. I want to hold my grandchildren. I want to go to church again. I want to live again. Her voice began to shake. And I want a place to belong, she added. Because now everyone has seen me. Not only what I did, but the part of me that agreed to it. Ed didn't move. I know I deserve whatever judgment you give me. I know I do. But I'm asking if there's still any place for me in the family at all. She stopped, then started again. Just any place where I can feel safe. The word stayed in the air. Ed looked at her quietly. You're asking for shelter? She dropped her head. Yes. He let the silence last. From who? He asked at last. She looked up at him. For the first time that night, her face showed no feeling. From my own mind, she said. From the woman in those pictures. Ed stared at her for a long moment. Annette, you can't just step back into my life like this was a small mistake between us, he said. You can't come back to my world just because we've had this honest talk. You can't take your place with me again just because you told me the truth. She nodded like she was hearing a hard fact. These past few days, he said, I asked myself if I should even meet with you. She looked at him. I didn't say no because I wanted to see if an adult woman was still in all those phone messages, texts, and emails. Tonight, I heard more than I thought. That kindness almost broke her. Ed, she began. He raised a hand. She stopped right away, then with real effort said, I'm sorry. He looked at her. I know you are, he said. She looked back at him for a long moment, then quietly asked, Ed, do you still love me? They both knew that question had been there all night. He didn't answer right away. For the first time that evening, he seemed lost in thought. His hand tightened around the coffee cup, then relaxed. He looked at her, then away. When he spoke, his voice was soft. Sometimes, he said, I feel love for you, but it's tangled up with hate. She waited. It's not gone, he said, but it's not strong either. She lowered her head a little, and tears finally fell. He watched her quietly. His hand moved once on the table as if he might reach across, then stopped and stayed next to the coffee cup. After a while, she wiped her face with the napkin and tried to speak calmly. I have prayed every day for 10 months, she said, for forgiveness and for a chance to ask for it properly. Ed looked at her. Annette, this isn't confession. No, I know that. And I'm not someone who can forgive you. Her face tightened. No. He looked down at the spoon in the bread pudding, but it matters to me that you know the difference. I do. She looked down at the coffee. I want to believe, she said, that in time we might still have something good. Yes, he said. I know you do. She waited. But you know, he said, something can be beautiful to think about and still not be something people can have. Annette did not move. What I don't yet know, he said, is how to live with my pain. The woman I've loved for over 30 years was close to 2 other men. Tears came then, but she made no sound. I know, she whispered. He held her eyes one last moment. For 30 years, he said, I believed I knew who was living in my own house. The restaurant bill was paid in silence. Ed drove them back to the Hebert estate, the tires moving smoothly on the wet road. He did not open her car door. He did not walk her up the front steps. He simply handed her a brass key and pointed toward the west wing. Now Annette stood in the middle of the guest bedroom. She wore the same neat silk blouse and skirt from dinner, but her shoulders had dropped. Her hands shook as she held the handle of her leather suitcase. Ed stood in the doorway. He wore his dark suit like armor. His silver hair was neat, his body straight and tall. His face showed a cold, hard emptiness. He did not look at her with anger. He looked at her as if she was something in the wrong place. "This is how it will be," Ed said, his voice calm but firm. "You asked for a place to stay. You wanted somewhere safe because the world outside sees exactly who you are. So here you are. This is your room. You will eat your meals here. You will not talk to the staff. You will not try to find me in the hallways. You will not answer the house phone. You are like a shadow in this house. You wanted a place to hide from the shame of your past? You have it. But don't think this roof means I forgive you. You are not here as part of my life. You are just someone I must keep here. That's all." Annette looked at him. She opened her mouth, her voice breaking. "Ed, please. I can't live like this. I can't stay locked in this room forever. We have to talk." "We need to work this out." "We already talked," Ed said, not moving at all. "You gave your reasons. You said you liked acting wild for Mari's friends. You said you enjoyed shaking up our 30 years of marriage because you felt trapped by what's proper. I heard you. I gave you this room. There's nothing more to say. You will stay in this part of the house and not spread your problems to the rest of the family. If you don't like this place, the front door is open. You can leave right now." He didn't wait for her answer. He turned and walked away. The strong oak door shut behind him with a loud click like a sudden sound. Annette sank to her knees on the hard floor. "This is real. He plans to keep me locked up here, to let me fade away in this house. I gave up my freedom in Europe only to come back and be nothing to him. I can't do this. I can't just stay here and disappear." 3 days passed. 3 long days of feeling trapped and completely alone. The workers brought her food on trays, setting them down without looking her in the eye. When she spoke to the maid, the woman quickly turned and left the room. It was midnight on the 3rd day. Annette was walking back and forth. Her hair was dirty and she wore a loose robe. She bit her nails until they hurt. The silence was heavy, pressing down on her like a weight. Her phone buzzed on the bed. She grabbed it fast. The screen showed a message from a number she didn't know. "True change isn't locking yourself away. Come open the window." Annette's heart stopped for a moment. She ran to the big window and pushed it open. Pastor Silas was standing in the middle of the estate's greenhouse. He was 34, tall and striking, dressed in a sharp navy suit that didn't fit the usual look of a local minister. His hair was perfect, and his smile was bright. He didn't look like a man of God. He looked more like a man used to control and power, studying something carefully. Annette hurried into the greenhouse, holding her robe close. She looked worn out, her eyes tired and red from crying. "Silas, why are you here? If Ed finds you, if Ed finds me, I'll simply say I'm helping someone in my care," Silas interrupted smoothly. He stepped closer, standing above her. He didn't look at the plants, only at her face. "Look at you, Annette," he said, his voice low and steady. "Look at what he's done to you. Look at how he has crushed your spirit in just 3 days. You think you did wrong in Europe? Your only mistake was trying to survive. Edouard Hebert is a strict, controlling man who took away your hope for 30 years. He pushed you away from love, from choice, from feeling like yourself. You are not the one to blame. You are the one hurt by someone who used his money and power to keep you under control." Annette gasped, her hands covering her mouth. "He's right. It wasn't my fault. Ed pushed me away. He made me feel invisible long before Germany. I felt lost, and I held on to anything that could save me. I made a terrible mistake, Silas," Annette whispered, tears falling down her face. "I embarrassed the family." Silas stepped closer and held her shoulders tightly. "Stop saying sorry," he said loudly in the quiet room. "Stop begging for a man who likes to see you suffer. I can help you, Annette. I can help you find your place in the church again. I can stand in front of everyone and speak about forgiveness. I will make you a symbol of strength. The whole parish will see you as a woman who survived a harsh and lonely marriage. But first, you must stop acting like someone who's been defeated. You have to take back your power. You need to show your children who really causes pain in this house." Annette looked up. Her tears stopped. A new strong feeling burned in her eyes. The guilt went away, replaced by a strong, determined anger. "How?" she asked, her voice clear. "He cut me off from everything. He controls all the money. He has all the power." "Leave the power to me," Silas said with a confident smile. "You just focus on your children. Show them the truth. Make them see their father as the person he really is. We will break his control from the inside." On the second-floor balcony, partly hidden by the dark, Ed stood very still. He wore a thick robe over his pajamas. His face showed no emotion as he watched Silas let go of Annette's shoulders. He saw Annette straighten up, her sad act completely gone. Ed reached into his robe pocket and took out his phone. He called someone.
It's time.
"Arthur," Ed said in a calm voice to his lawyer. "Sorry for the late call. Get ready to open the succession papers, the Vanguard Covenant. I want the documents ready for my signature by the end of the week." He hung up, turned away from the greenhouse, and walked quietly back inside. Mari sat on the edge of Annette's bed. She was 45, but looked about 10 years younger. She wore a tight designer dress and knee-high leather boots. Her hair was cut short and uneven, dyed bright blonde. Her makeup was perfect and bold. She looked very out of place in the old-fashioned fancy bedroom. Annette walked quickly back and forth at the bottom of the bed. Now she was dressed in a soft, expensive sweater and nice pants, but she seemed very anxious and upset. "Annette, look at yourself," Mary said sharply, crossing her legs. "You're acting like a scared prisoner in this giant house. You had real freedom when you were in France. You lived fully there. I saw you, and now you let that proud man lock you away? No way. Stand up and be the strong woman you were before." "Keep your voice down," Annette whispered angrily, shaking her finger toward the door. "If Ed hears you, he'll kick me out. I have no money, Mari. He froze all my accounts. I'm living off whatever food the maids leave under the door, like I'm in jail." Marie rolled her eyes and walked close to Annette. "Then we take his money," she said coldly. "We take everything. You have Silas on your side. The good pastor will say you're the hurt wife. That's your shield. Now we need a sword. We will turn your kids against him. We will drain his accounts dry. You won't be his prisoner anymore. You'll be his downfall. And if you don't give me my share for keeping quiet about those videos on my phone, I will share them with everyone at your country club." Annette's face went pale. "She's blackmailing me. My closest friend is threatening me. I have to get money. I must stop Ed before he stops me." "What do I do?" Annette asked quietly. "Write a diary," Mari ordered. She went to the big wooden desk and slammed a leather notebook on it. "Write a fake sad diary. Say you want to die. Say Ed makes your life miserable. Say he watches your every move and tells you you're worthless. Make it like a dramatic story. Then leave it open on this desk, so your little daughter Claire will find it when she comes to check on her poor, fragile mother." Downstairs in the main hall, Ed stood near the front door. He wore a neat dress shirt and pants. He watched as his son Thomas and daughter Claire came in through the front doors. "Good afternoon," Ed said gently, but calmly. Thomas looked away, his jaw tight. He didn't answer his father and walked past him toward the stairs. Claire stopped, her face pale and worried. She wore a simple coat and carried a heavy purse. She looked at Ed with deep doubt. "Is Mom upstairs?" Claire asked, her voice cold. "She is in her room," Ed said quietly. "Are you even talking to her, Dad? Or are you just leaving her up there all alone like a prisoner?" Claire asked, her voice rising in the quiet hall. Ed did not react. He didn't defend himself. He looked at Claire and noticed the tired look under her eyes and the anger she was holding back. "I am giving your mother exactly what she asked for," Ed said simply. "You can go see her if you want." Claire gave him a look full of disgust. Then she turned and walked up the big staircase. Ed stood alone in the hall. A quick, sharp pain flickered in his eyes, but he hid it fast. He would not explain himself. He would not tell others about his wife's troubles just to protect his own name. Upstairs, Annette sat at the desk, urgently writing in a leather notebook. Claire opened the door to the West Wing bedroom without knocking. Annette was ready. As soon as the door opened, she fell to the floor beside the desk, covering her face with her hands. She began to breathe hard and let out quiet, breaking sobs. Her hair was messy, and she looked weak and broken. "Mom!" Claire called out, dropping her purse and running over. She dropped to her knees and held Annette's trembling shoulders. "Mom, what's wrong? Breathe! Look at me!" "I can't take this anymore, Claire!" Annette cried, her voice loud and strained. "I just can't! He looks at me like I'm nothing. He doesn't just punish me, he hurts my mind. He wants me to lose it in this room so he can act like the sufferer. He just stands there and looks at me like I'm not even here. Yes, I made mistakes, I know that. But I only did it because I felt helpless. He never loved me. He only cared about having a pretty quiet wife to show off." Claire hugged her mother tightly, tears falling down her face. Over Annette's shoulder, Claire's eyes caught the open leather diary on the desk. The writing was rushed and messy, marked with water drops. Claire took the diary and read the big, dramatic words. "He told me I am like a ghost today. He said I have no heart. He won't let me talk to the staff. He wants me to give up so he doesn't have to deal with the breakup. I am so scared of him. I am so scared of the man I married." Claire's hands started to shake hard. Her sadness for her mother quickly turned into a fierce anger aimed only at her father. "I'm going to make him pay," Claire said under her breath. She dropped the book, stood up, and hurried out of the room. Annette stayed sitting on the floor. Once the door closed behind Claire, she stopped crying right away. She wiped her cheeks and began to breathe calmly again. It worked. Claire believed every word. She's going to confront him. Claire walked down the big staircase loudly, her footsteps sharp on the wood. She found Ed in his private study. He sat behind his large oak desk, looking through some papers. When Claire pushed the heavy doors open and walked up to his desk, he looked up. "You are cruel and heartless!" Claire shouted, her voice bouncing around the room. She put both hands on his desk and leaned forward, her face full of anger. "I know what she did in Europe was wrong. I know she hurt you. But locking her in a room? Treating her like that? Trying to break her spirit just to keep your money and your perfect image? You're a monster. You are hurting her, Dad." Ed stayed calm in his chair. He didn't yell or hit the desk. He folded his hands and looked straight into Claire's angry eyes. "Are you finished?" Ed asked quietly, his voice cold but steady. "No, I'm not done," Claire shouted, losing all control. "She's having a panic attack on the floor right now. She wrote in her diary that you want her to give up on life. How could you do this? How can you be so cruel to the woman who raised us?" Ed stood up slowly. His presence filled the room. He spoke clearly, never raising his voice, but every word hit hard. "You want me to defend myself against the tear-stained pages of a diary she left open for you to find?" Ed said, his eyes locked on hers. I won't shout and fight to prove anything to my own daughter. I won't explain her choices just to protect my image in your eyes. If you believe I am the villain," she says, "if you really think I made her betray her promises, to be with others and pretend for the world while she hurt this family, then her plan worked. I won't get into a fight about it, and I won't let her ruin my relationship with you by turning this into a battle." Claire stared at him, breathing hard, shocked by how calm and firm he was, refusing to argue or offer any answer back. "The truth needs no defense, Claire," Ed said, his voice calm and certain. "I won't explain myself to you. Use your own eyes. Watch what she does, not what she says. Watch who she spends time with. Watch where the money goes. Pay attention. When you are ready to see the truth, my door will be open." Ed sat back down and picked up his pen, clearly done with the conversation. Claire stood still, surprised. His calm confidence made her question everything. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't deny it. He didn't even try to show me those old photos again to make me hate her. He just told me to watch her. Why would he tell me that if he was hurting her? Claire stepped back from the desk. She said nothing else. She turned and walked out of the room, pulling her phone from her pocket. She was done crying. She was done reacting. Now, she would quietly watch everything both of her parents did in the house, until she found out who was really lying. Ed waited until the heavy doors clicked shut behind her. He kept his shoulders straight. He didn't sigh. He grabbed his suit jacket from the chair, put it on, and left through the side door. He drove straight across town to the old home of Great-Aunt Josephine. Josephine was 82. She sat upright in a tall leather chair in the middle of her living room. She wore a plain black dress and held a silver-headed cane tightly in both hands. Her face looked strict and hard. Her gray hair was pulled back tightly. She looked at Ed with sharp, clear eyes. Ed sat down in the chair across from her. He sat up straight. "You look like a man who is letting his house fall apart just to show everyone he isn't afraid of a little trouble," Josephine said. Her voice was rough, without the soft tone younger people used. "You look weak, Edward. Sitting there so proud and quiet, thinking that will make you strong. It won't. It only makes you a target." "I'm handling things, Aunt Josephine," Ed said calmly. "You're handling nothing," Josephine said sharply. She hit her cane on the floor. "Do you even know what's happening outside your quiet little world? Pastor Silas spent 3 hours this morning with the parish council. Do you know what he told them? He said Annette is scared and broken, and that she's close to giving up because you keep her shut away and make her feel alone. He's turning the whole church against you. They are getting ready to take your place on the board. They will accuse you in public of being a harsh leader." Josephine leaned forward, her dark eyes showing no mercy. "And your wife will end up with half of the family's fortune while acting like she's the one who's hurt. She has that rude blonde friend, Mari, whispering bad ideas to her. They will use your children to hurt you. They will make Claire and Thomas see you as the bad guy, and you will let it happen because you don't want to fight back. You cannot win by staying clean, Edward. You have to make the first move before she does." Ed looked straight at his aunt. He spoke quietly but clearly. "I will not show my children pictures of their mother behaving badly with strangers in a hotel," Ed said. "I won't break their sense of safety just to keep my money. I won't let my family become the talk of the town. If my children hate me because they believe her lies, then so be it. I will survive, but I won't be the one who destroys how they see their mother." Josephine looked at him quietly for a long moment. Her face softened just a little, understanding how hard his choice was. "You've always been stubborn and proud," she said quietly. She reached into her black dress and pulled out a thick folded paper inside a sealed envelope. She dropped it on the small table between them. "What is this?" Ed asked. "That is the Vanguard Covenant," Josephine said in a serious tone. "Your great-great-grandfather wrote it back in 1870. It was made to protect this family from greedy spouses, gamblers, and betrayers. It is a special legal rule, accepted by the state. If the head of the Hebert family signs this, the spouse loses all their rights to the family estate immediately. No court fight, no divorce, no sharing of money. It's a total cutoff." Ed stared at the envelope. "If I sign this, the money doesn't stay with me?" "No, it won't," Josephine said sharply. "It goes straight to the next generation, to Claire and Thomas. You will have nothing in your name. On paper, you will be poor. But Annette won't be able to touch a single cent. She'll be blocked and will have to answer to her children. She will have to ask them for her allowance." Ed looked at the envelope without thinking twice. He picked it up and put it inside his jacket pocket. "Do you know what you're doing, Edward?" Josephine asked. "You are giving two young people full control over a big business. You are handing them the keys to a kingdom while their mother is trying hard to turn them against you. If they listen to her, they could push you out." "They are Hebers," Ed said calmly. "It's time to see what they really are." Ed stood behind his desk in the study. Thomas stood across from him. Thomas wore a casual shirt but looked tense and angry. He crossed his arms and stared at his father with clear anger. "I'm not asking you to take my side, Thomas," Ed said. He pushed a heavy stack of old ledgers across the desk. "I'm asking you to do your job. You are the vice president of the family's charity. It's time to act like it. I want you to check these ledgers carefully. Look at every penny that was spent from the small accounts in the last 4 days." "Why?" Thomas snapped, his voice sharp. "Are you trying to prove something? Are you trying to distract me from Mom's panic attacks upstairs? Claire told me what's going on. She said Mom is writing in a diary that you want her gone. So what is this, Dad? Are you trying to keep me busy so I don't notice what's really happening?" "I'm telling you to check the numbers," Ed said coldly, not reacting to Thomas's words. "I froze the main family accounts, but I left 3 small charity accounts open. Go to your office. Check the transactions. Don't come back until you've finished. If you want to know the truth about this house, start by watching where the money goes." Thomas grabbed the ledgers and left the room angrily. Across the house, in the West Wing, Annette sat on her bed in front of her laptop. Mari stood behind her, leaning over to watch. Mari wore a tight red dress and long boots. Her straight blonde hair was perfect. She tapped her manicured fingernail on the laptop screen. "Right there," Mari said sharply. "Send the $50,000 to the LLC. Do it now." Annette's hands shook as she typed the numbers. She looked up at Marie with worry. "Marie, this is charity money. It's from the foundation. If Ed finds out I moved the cash, he can get me in serious trouble," he said. "He could send me to federal prison." Marie laughed and tossed her hair over her shoulder. "He won't do anything. He cares too much about his perfect public image. He won't call the police on his own wife and risk the Hebert name getting bad attention. Just press the button, Annette. You owe me this money. I didn't say a word about the videos. I didn't share the one of you in the hotel bathroom. Do you think your sweet daughter Claire would like to see that? Or the parish council who look up to her so much? Pay me." Annette swallowed hard, closed her eyes tight, and pressed enter. The screen flashed. The money was sent. "Good girl," Mary said with a feeling of victory. "Now send another $20,000 for yourself. We're going to need cash when we leave this stupid town and that arrogant husband of yours with nothing but his pride." Down the hall, Thomas sat in his own quiet office. He stared at his computer screen. The records were open in front of him. He saw 3 wire transfers, $50,000, $20,000, and $15,000, all sent through fake companies over the last 2 days. all done using his mother's login information. Thomas felt his face go pale. She was stealing. Mom was taking money from the charity. While she cried in front of Claire saying she wanted to die, she was secretly moving almost $100,000 out of the accounts. Thomas stood up. He left the records on the desk. He walked out of his office and down the long, quiet hallway to the west wing. He stopped outside his mother's bedroom door. He raised his hand to open it, but then he heard Mari's sharp, cruel laughter from inside. Thomas froze. The heavy wooden door was slightly open. "I am so tired of this sad, fake act." Annette's voice came through the crack. She didn't sound desperate or upset. She sounded calm, annoyed, and clever. "Do you know how hard it is to make myself cry every time Claire walks in? She's so easy to fool. She believes every word I wrote in that fake diary. I even squeeze water on the pages to make it look like real tears." "That's because your kids are just like their father," Mari said with sharp meaning in her voice. "They are stiff, boring, and always want to feel better than everyone else. Just keep playing the victim for a few more weeks. Let Silas do the hard work with the church." Once Ed was made to admit his mistakes and pay a large sum to settle the matter quietly, we packed our things and left for Europe. "By the way, Claude asked about you," Thomas said, stopping as if he couldn't breathe. His chest tightened sharply. "Did he really?" Annette's voice changed suddenly. It became soft, quiet, and lost the warm feeling Thomas always knew from his mother. "Oh, how I miss him. I miss feeling alive. Being here with Ed and the kids. It's like living in a silent, empty place. I just need the money, Mari. I need to take everything so I can leave and never come back." Thomas stepped back. His vision went blurry. The picture of his loving, faithful, sad mother broke apart inside his mind. He turned and walked away quietly across the carpet. He didn't go to his father. Instead, he went down the stairs and out the front door. An hour later, Thomas sat in the passenger seat of Claire's car. They were parked in an empty lot behind the local grocery store. Claire held the wheel tightly, staring blankly out the window. "Are you sure, Thomas?" Claire whispered, her voice shaking. "Are you sure she said that?" "She called you foolish, Claire," Thomas said in a flat voice, empty from feeling betrayed. He looked over at his sister. "She laughed about the diary, said playing the victim for you is tiring. Today, she moved almost $100,000 from the charity funds to pay off Marie and hide money for herself so she can run back to France with the man she was unfaithful with. It's all lies. Every single tear. Every panic attack. It's all pretending." Thomas hit the dashboard with his fist, his voice breaking. "She doesn't care about us. She just wants the money. She's using you to make you hate Dad so she can take from the family." Claire pounded her hands on the wheel. She didn't shout. She just sat there, her face full of pain. "Dad knew," Claire whispered, the shock hitting her hard. "Dad knew exactly what she was doing, and when I yelled at him and called him harsh names, he didn't defend himself. He didn't tell me she was stealing. He just accepted it. He took my anger because he didn't want to be the one who hurt me. He told me to see things for myself. He set up the charity accounts so you would find the truth without him having to speak against her." The next morning, Ed and Thomas sat side by side in a small metal fishing boat on the edge of the lake. Ed held his fishing rod still. He wore a thick jacket. Thomas leaned forward, staring quietly at the dark water. Ed did not ask about the papers. He didn't ask what Thomas had found. Instead, he looked at his son's face and saw the empty, tired look in his eyes. Right away, he knew Thomas had learned the truth. Ed reached out and put his hand firmly on Thomas's shoulder. "You don't have to face this alone," Ed said softly. Thomas looked up at his father, his eyes filling with tears. But he didn't cry. He just nodded once. Ed didn't push him. He kept his hand on Thomas's shoulder, giving him the quiet, steady support he could still offer. The next afternoon, Pastor Silas didn't ask to meet. He just walked into Ed's private study and closed the doors behind him. He wore a neat navy suit, and a silver cross hung on his dark tie. Ed sat at his desk but didn't stand up. He looked at Silas with a cold stare that made the room feel tense. "You are in my home without permission, Silas," Ed said calmly. "I bring a message from the parish council, Edward," Silas answered, walking confidently across the room. He stopped right in front of the desk and leaned forward, putting his hands on the polished wood. "Your time acting like the untouchable leader in this town is finished. The council looked over Annette's situation. We have heard about her deep emotional pain. You are holding your wife back. You are hurting her feelings, and the church will no longer ignore your controlling ways." "You are a bad liar, Silas," Ed said without moving. And an even worse priest. You don't care about Annette's feelings. You just want to raise your own name by going after a rich man. You want people to know you by breaking mine down. So stop pretending with your holy act. Tell me what you really want. Silas smiled and dropped his acting. His face showed pure ambition. I want a public reconciliation ceremony, Silas said, his voice full of pride. This Sunday, at the church, in front of everyone. You will stand at the pulpit and openly admit to how you have treated Annette. You will say sorry to her in front of hundreds of people, and you will promise a donation of $5 million to the church's community healing fund to show you are sorry. If you refuse, I will stand up there and call you out myself. I will ask the council to remove your family's name from the church. Your good name in the South will be gone. Ed looked at the confident young pastor. He didn't shout or ask Silas to leave. He stayed perfectly still, letting Silas think he had won. A public ceremony, Ed said slowly, in front of the whole parish. Yes, Silas said, chest puffed out, enjoying the moment. You will agree, Edward, or you will lose everything. I accept your terms, Ed said quietly. Silas blinked, clearly surprised by how easily Ed had given in. But, Ed added, his voice growing firm, I have one condition. I will not listen to you speak on that stage. The event will be led by my two children, Claire and Thomas. They are the future of this family. If I am to be judged in public, I want them to judge me, standing beside you. Silas narrowed his eyes, thinking it over. The kids already don't like me. Annette told me Claire shouted at him in his office. Having the children lead will only make him look worse. It's perfect. Agreed, Silas said with a sharp smile. Sunday morning, Edward. Bring your checkbook. Silas left the room. 10 minutes later, he was in the greenhouse, holding Annette close. We got him, Silas whispered, kissing her gently on the neck. He gave in. He will make a public apology and pay the money. Your children will run the ceremony. He'll pay just to stop them from showing their anger in public. Annette threw her head back and laughed, a cold, proud sound. He really is weak when pushed hard. I will look stunning in white on Sunday. It was Saturday afternoon. Annette was at the church with Silas, planning her dress and tears for the ceremony. Claire stepped into the empty West Wing bedroom. She wore dark jeans and a plain sweater. Her face showed no emotion. Thomas stood in the doorway, watching. Claire walked straight to the mahogany writing desk. The fake diary was gone. She ignored the desk and moved to Annette's big travel trunk at the foot of the bed. She opened the latches. She sifted through the silk blouses and fancy shoes until her hand found something hard hidden in the lining of a secret zipper pocket. She pulled it out. It was a small black notebook. Claire opened it. The handwriting was Annette's, but the ink was clean, not blurred with fake tears. The writing was sharp and quick. Claire stood in the middle of the room and read the pages out loud. Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to read everything so Thomas could hear. Day 4 back in this place, Claire read, her voice breaking. I can't stand looking at Claire. She is just like her father, strict, dull, obsessed with being right. She came in today crying, and I had to stop myself from rolling my eyes. Thomas is worse. He acts like a little lost child. Neither of them has really lived. They don't know what it's like to feel someone's hands on you and completely lose control. Claire swallowed hard, staring at the page. I close my eyes in this bed, and all I can think about is Claude pressing me against the bathroom wall in Munich. I want that back. I want to be Anne again. I just need to keep playing this stupid game until Silas makes Ed write the check. $5 million. Mari takes her share, and I'm on the first flight to Paris. I will never speak to my suffocating, sad children again. Claire stopped reading. The notebook slipped from her fingers and fell to the floor with a soft thud. Her idea of her mother did not just break, it completely vanished. The woman who raised her wasn't real. She was a shadow. The woman here was someone who cared only about money, seeing her own children as obstacles in her way. Thomas walked in and wrapped his arms around his sister. Claire buried her face in his shoulder and finally let herself cry. She sobbed, her hands gripping his shirt, mourning the mother she thought she had. Dad knew, Claire whispered, her voice quiet against Thomas's chest. Dad sat in his office while I shouted at him. He let me call him a monster, but he never once told me about this. He took all the blame for her. He took my anger to protect me from this book. I know, Thomas said softly, tears falling into Claire's hair. He's been carrying it all alone. They stood together in the empty room for a long time, holding each other in the heavy silence of the house. When they finally let go, the sadness in their eyes had faded, replaced by a clear, sharp focus. They were hay bears. They were raised by Edward, and they knew exactly what they had to do. It was midnight. The whole estate was dark. Ed sat in his study, reading by the light of a single desk lamp. The double doors opened quietly. Claire and Thomas walked in together. They no longer looked like children. They stood tall and careful. Claire went straight to the desk and dropped the black moleskin notebook in front of her father. Ed looked at the book. He looked at Claire's tired red eyes. Then he looked at the firm set of Thomas's jaw. He understood right away what they had found. "Dad," Claire said, her voice calm and strong, carrying quiet power. "We need to talk." She stepped fully into the lamp's light. Without pause, she dropped the notebook in the center of Ed's spotless leather desk pad. The sound of the notebook hitting the wood felt like a judge's hammer. "We read it," Claire said. Her voice was clear, without the tears and fear from earlier in the week. It was cold and sharp, like a blade. "We read every single word she wrote in that small book. We know exactly what she thinks about us. We know she faked the panic attacks. She even wrote how tiring it was to pretend to cry every time I came into the room. She laughed on those pages about how she used a wet cloth on her fake diary to get me to come down here and yell at you." Thomas stepped up beside his sister. He crossed his arms and stood stiffly, just like their father did. "And I handled the charity books, Dad," Thomas said firmly. "I found the money transfers. Almost $100,000 went to a fake company in the last 2 days. I went to her room to talk to her. I stood outside the slightly open door and heard her and Mari laughing about how foolish Claire and I are. I heard Mari pressuring her over more private videos from Europe. I heard Mom saying she just needs to keep acting like the hurt victim until Pastor Silas makes you write a $5 million check at church. She wants the money so she can run back to France and be with the bartender she cheated on you with." Thomas leaned forward, putting both hands on the desk. "We know everything, Dad. We know she is selfish and only cares about herself. We know her sorry act is a planned lie. And we know you sat here, took every hurtful word we said, and let us hate you just to protect us from the truth about how bad she really is." Ed looked at the black notebook on his desk. He looked at Claire's red, tired eyes. Then he looked at Thomas's tight jaw, full of steel and determination. The strong, cold front Ed had kept for the last 10 months finally broke. Tears filled his eyes and ran down his worn cheeks. He didn't wipe them away. For the first time since their trouble in Europe, his shoulders dropped. "I am so very sorry," Ed said. His voice was thick with deep sadness that filled the quiet room. "I never wanted you to see this side of your mother. When everything fell apart 10 months ago, my only thought was how to protect you from the shame she brought on our family. I thought if I took in all her anger and your confusion, I could be a shield between you and the truth about her. I thought I could keep the bad things hidden away. I was wrong." Ed put his hands flat on the desk and looked straight at his children. "I didn't see how greedy she really was," Ed said, his voice steady again and strong. "I didn't see how harmful Marie's influence was. I let you fall into their traps because my pride made me think I could handle it by myself. For that, I will be sorry to you for the rest of my life. But I will not let her ruin your future." Claire walked around the desk and hugged her father tightly. Thomas stepped forward and put his hand on their father's shoulder. "You don't need to say sorry to us," Claire said, tears soaking his collar. "You didn't do this. That woman upstairs did. You are a good father. You are 1,000 times better than she ever could be." Ed gently stepped back. He looked at both of them, his face turning serious again. He reached inside his jacket and pulled out a big manila envelope Aunt Josephine had given him. He put it on the desk next to the black diary. He took out the thick official papers and laid them flat. "I saw your great-aunt Josephine today," Ed said. "She gave me this. It's called the Vanguard Covenant. It is a family agreement made long ago to protect the Aber estate from people trying to take it, from debts, and from untrustworthy spouses. If I sign this paper, it will give all power to you two right away. It works outside of courts and divorce rules. It means Annette cannot claim any part of our money or belongings." Thomas looked at the papers, confused. "What will happen to you?" he asked. Ed picked up a gold pen, steady as ever. "I will give up everything I own," he said. "The houses, the cars, the bank accounts, the charity, the stocks, and the trust funds. All my money will go into a shared trust, controlled only by you two. As soon as I sign this, I will have nothing left. I will only have the clothes I am wearing. Your mother cannot ask me for money after this because I will have nothing to give." Claire gasped and took a step back, covering her mouth. "Dad, no. You can't do that. You can't just give away everything you have. You can't ruin yourself for us." "I'm not ruining it," Ed said quietly but firmly. "I'm giving it to the only people I trust." He touched the pen to the paper and signed his full name. He turned the page and signed again. Then the next page. He put the pen down and passed the papers to Thomas. "It's done," Ed said. A huge weight seemed to lift from him. He looked like a man freed from a heavy burden. "You two are now the leaders of the Aber family. Tomorrow morning, your mother and Pastor Silas will stand at the church pulpit. They are going to ask me for $5 million to keep my good name safe. I am going to stand up there and show them that they spent 10 months trying to control a man who now has nothing left. And then, you two will have to deal with her." Annette stood in front of the full-length mirror in the guest room of the West Wing. She wore a clean, long-sleeved white dress made by a famous designer. It fit her perfectly, was modest, and very expensive. She smoothed her hands over her waist. She looked like a picture of southern charm and quiet pain. Mari sat cross-legged on the edge of the bed. She wore tight black pants and a thin silk blouse. She was filing her long nails sharply, looking at Annette in the mirror with a cold, mocking smile. "I look like an angel," Annette said, turning a little to check her side view. She smiled at herself, her eyes shining with proud confidence. "I look like a woman who has been through real trouble but still holds on to her hope. Tomorrow, the church leaders will be in my hand. Silas will say his sermon about kindness, I will show a few perfect soft tears, and everyone will look at Ed like he is the worst man in the world." "Just make sure he brings the money," Mari said, brushing dust from her nails. She didn't look up. "I don't care about your little holy act, Annette. I don't care if the church thinks you are a saint. I only care about the $5 million. I want my share sent to my secret bank by Monday morning. If you get up there tomorrow and Ed tries to give fake sorry words without paying, you need to be tough. You need to threaten to take everything to court. You need to make sure he loses everything." Annette turned around, her face twisting into a fierce and confident smile. "He will bring the money," Annette said, waving her hand like it was easy. "Edouard Hebert would rather lose his own arm than let a messy court case ruin the family name for years. He agreed to this show because he knows he is trapped. He knows Silas can kick him out of their fancy group. He will write that check, Mari. And when it's done, you and I will get on a plane to Paris, and I'll drink all night to forget this house that feels like a prison." On the other side of the estate, in the master bedroom, the mood was very different. Ed stood by his bed. On the mattress was a small, simple leather suitcase, open but barely packed. He was not folding any fancy clothes. He was not packing fancy watches, gold cufflinks, or silk ties. He folded 3 pairs of old jeans, 4 simple button-up shirts, and a thick wool sweater. He moved calmly without any tension. His hands did not shake. His jaw was relaxed. The heavy weight that had been on his chest for 10 months was completely gone. He closed the suitcase and zipped it. He looked around the big fancy master bedroom. He saw the old furniture, the expensive paintings, the thick curtains. He felt no connection to any of it. It was just things made of wood and cloth. It was like a museum he no longer cared for. He picked up the suitcase, put it by the door, and turned off the light. The Bonaventure Church was full to the very last seat. Every wooden bench was taken by the richest, most powerful people in the South. They wore their best clothes, sitting close to each other in quiet, full of judgment. Hundreds of eyes were fixed on the raised platform at the front. Pastor Silas stood behind the heavy wooden podium. He wore a neat black suit with a white collar. He spoke through the microphone, using a deep voice meant to hold the crowd's attention. "We have come here today to see a special moment of true healing," Silas said, putting a hand on his chest. "For too long, the harm done behind closed doors has been ignored, even in the most respected families. We see wealth and think there is peace. But real peace comes from love. Edouard Hebert forgot how to love. He cared more for his pride than his promises. He built a cold cage around his wife, pushing her to the point of despair, punishing her for simply wanting to live freely. But today, the truth will be known." Silas motioned to the front row. Annette stood up. She wore a clean white dress. She kept her head slightly down and held her hands tightly together. She walked slowly and quietly up the steps to the platform. The crowd whispered softly, full of sympathy. She looked weak. She looked completely worn down. She took the microphone from Silas. "I was empty inside. Annette said, her voice shaking just right. She stopped and let one tear fall down her cheek. I lacked kindness and care for 30 years. I made a serious mistake in Europe. I have never hidden that. But I was a woman lost in a house where my own husband treated me like I did not exist. When I came back asking for forgiveness, he shut me away. He would not speak to me. He wanted me to lose my mind all alone so he could keep his perfect image in public without having to face a hurt wife. I only wanted my family back. I only wanted my children. Several older women in the front rows took tissues from their nice bags, quietly wiping their eyes. Silas stepped forward to the microphone again, putting a strong hand on Annette's shoulder. He looked out at the crowd, his eyes locking on Ed, who sat straight in the second row, with Claire and Thomas by his side. "Edouard Hebert," Silas said loudly, his voice full of pride and control. "I ask you to come up here. I ask you to stand before everyone, admit to your wrongs, and give the money your wife needs to start healing. Come forward, Edouard. Take responsibility for what you did." Ed stood up. He had no paper or check with him. He calmly buttoned his jacket, walked down the aisle, and climbed the steps to the pulpit. He stood tall, perfect, and showed no fear. He walked right past Silas. He walked right past Annette, not even looking at her. He held the microphone and looked at all the people watching. Then he gave a small, calm smile, one no one there had seen before. Ed held on to the edges of the wooden stand. He spoke quietly and clearly, not loud like Silas. "Pastor Silas is right," Ed said. The whole room went completely quiet. You could hear a tiny noise drop on the floor. Annette stopped crying right away. Silas frowned, confused by Ed's calm answer. "I am a flawed man," Ed said slowly, looking around at the crowd, making eye contact with church leaders. "I spent 30 years caring more about the Haber family image than about my own marriage. When I learned my wife was with 2 other men on a river trip in Germany, smiling for pictures while it happened, I did not handle it well. I felt disgusted. When she came home asking for shelter, I gave it to her. I gave her a room and a silent house. I admit that freely. I can't make her happy, and she can't respect me." Ed turned his head to look at Annette. Her face was losing color fast. "I am not the victim here," Ed said clearly and strongly. "And neither are you, Annette. We are just 2 people who no longer like each other." But Pastor Silas wanted an answer today. He said, "I had to come up here, admit my mistakes, and write a check for $5 million to fix my reputation. He threatened to ruin my name and kick me out of this church if I didn't do what he asked." The crowd gasped loudly. Silas moved forward, his face turning red. "Edouard, that is a complete lie," he shouted, pointing at him. "I am trying to help. I'm standing up for a woman who has been hurt." "Be quiet, Silas," Ed said without even looking at the pastor. The strange, harsh words from a usually calm man shocked everyone in the room. Silas stopped and closed his mouth tightly. Ed faced the crowd again. "I do see that Pastor Silas is right about one thing. I am no longer fit to lead the Haber family. This heavy burden has hurt my marriage, and now it is harming my church too. So, I am taking myself away from this situation." Ed looked at Annette. His eyes were empty of feelings, anger, or any past memories. "Last night I signed an agreement called the Vanguard Covenant," Ed said. "I gave all of my money, my properties, my accounts, my charity, and the family trusts to my children, Claire and Thomas. I gave up my title and my wealth. Right now I have nothing. I don't have $5 million to give you, Annette. I don't have a home to keep you in. You are completely free from me. Go and find your own happiness." The church filled with shocked, confused whispers. Silas stood still, his eyes wide open. His plan to force Ed was now gone. He thought he had trapped a billionaire, but the billionaire gave everything away instead. Annette stared at Ed. Her clean white dress suddenly seemed out of place. Her eyes grew wide with panic as she understood what he had said. "He gave it all away. I get nothing from the estate. I don't get the money. He ruined himself just to leave me out." "No," Annette said quietly. Her voice trembled with real fear. "No, you can't do that. That's against the law. You can't just give it all away." "It is already done," Ed said softly. He dropped the microphone and stepped back from the stage. His final move was over. Annette rushed forward for the microphone, pushing Silas aside. Her weak act was gone. She stood straight and strong. Her face showed pure panic mixed with anger. She looked into the front row, locking eyes with her children. "Claire! Thomas!" Annette called out loudly. Her voice was sharp and desperate, echoing through the church speakers. Come up here, right now. Your father is having a breakdown. He's trying to take my half of the estate by using you. You need to write the check. You need to approve $5 million this minute. Claire and Thomas stood up from the pew. They did not look surprised or scared. They walked up the steps to the pulpit together, their faces cold and serious. Thomas stood in front of his mother, blocking her from Ed. He reached out and took the microphone from Annette's hands. "The family trust won't be used to pay money for Mari, mother," Thomas said into the microphone. His voice was strong and clear, filling the quiet church. "And it definitely won't go to support your lovers in Europe. We checked the foundation records. We know you took almost $100,000 this week to pack your bags and run back to France." The people in the church gasped loudly. Women covered their mouths in shock. Men shook their heads, full of disgust. The quiet whispers quickly turned into a loud, judging murmur. Claire stepped beside Thomas. She reached into her coat pocket and held up a small black notebook for everyone to see. "And we found your real diary," Claire said, leaning toward the microphone. Her voice was sharp and cold. "We read where you called Thomas and me boring, useless problems. We read where you dreamt about the bartender in Munich while faking panic attacks on my bedroom floor. You're not a hero, Mom. You're a taker. You tried to use us to hurt the only parent who truly cared about us." Annette's calm, southern act broke completely. The greedy Anne came rushing back. She knew she had lost everything. The money was gone. The story was ruined. The church saw her true self. There was no reason to hide any longer. "You ungrateful children!" Annette shouted. She lunged forward and slapped the black notebook out of Claire's hand. The book hit the wooden floor with a loud thud. Annette turned to face her children, Ed and the whole church, her face twisted with anger and hate. "You think you're so right?" Annette screamed. She ignored the microphone, but her harsh voice filled the stunned silence of the church. "You think I wanted this dull, unhappy life? I spent 30 years stuck in that big, lonely house, acting like the perfect, obedient wife to a man who treated me like old furniture. I gave up all my youth for this family, and what did I get? 2 unhappy kids who only know how to judge me." Silas stood frozen against the back wall of the pulpit, his eyes wide with fear as his symbol of grace fell apart in front of the whole church group. "I loved every minute of Europe," Annette shouted, shaking her finger at Ed, her voice full of anger. "I loved it. Claude made me feel like a woman in just 4 days, more than you did in 30 years. I didn't want to come back here. I only came back because I wanted what was owed to me. I wanted my money so I could leave this sad little town and never see any of your unhappy, boring faces again. That money is mine." She stood there, breathing hard, her clean white dress not matching the harsh words she said. She looked wildly at her children, daring them to answer. Thomas looked at her but did not yell back. He did not swear or show any emotion. He faced the angry, yelling woman and said the last, cold words. "You are getting absolutely nothing," Thomas said quietly. "Leave our church." The church grew completely silent. No one whispered or moved. The whole group sat still, shocked by Annette's public outburst. The perfect image of a polite Southern lady was gone. Now there was only a shouting, angry stranger on the altar. In the 5th row, Mari stood up. She looked at Annette, still shouting and out of control. Mari did not try to help or defend her friend. She quickly judged the situation and knew no one was on Annette's side. Marie adjusted her expensive purse, muttered, "Enough of this," and walked fast down the middle aisle. She went through the heavy wooden doors and stepped outside into the morning sun. She was gone, taking with her the $90,000 Annette had already taken. At the front of the church, the head elder of the council stood up. He was a serious 80-year-old man with white hair and no patience for trouble. He walked to the bottom of the pulpit stairs and looked up at Pastor Silas, who was still pressed against the wall, full of fear. "Pastor Silas," the head elder said calmly. His voice held the full power of the church behind it. "You are relieved of your duties right away. Pack your things and leave the church grounds by noon. You are suspended until a full investigation can be done about your actions against the Haber family. You brought trouble here to raise yourself up. May God have mercy on your pride, because this council will not." Silas said nothing. He lowered his head. His face lost all color. Then he quickly slipped out the side door of the pulpit. His career in the South was over and would never recover. Annette stood alone. She looked out at the hundreds of people watching her. She saw the deep dislike in their eyes. Women who once invited her to country club lunches now turned their heads away from her. She looked at Claire and Thomas, but her children had already turned their backs, stepping down from the pulpit and walking away together down the aisle. Her legs gave out. Annette fell onto the wooden floor of the pulpit. Her clean white dress folded strangely around her knees. She didn't cry. The rush of anger and fear left her all at once, leaving a cold, empty feeling inside her chest. She was surrounded by people but had never felt more alone. She had no money. She had no friends. She had lost her children forever. Ed walked closer to her. He stopped a few feet away. He looked down at the woman he had loved for 30 years. There was no anger, no hate, no disgust in his face. Only deep, quiet sadness. Annette looked up at him. Her hand shook as she reached out and held on to the fabric of his pants. "Ed," she whispered, her voice weak and hollow. "Ed, please. I'll go back to the room. I'll go back to the West Wing. I will be quiet. I'll stay where you want me. Just please, let me come back to the house. Don't leave me out here." Ed looked down at the hand holding him. He softly but firmly pulled her fingers away. "There are no more places for you to hide, Annette," he said calmly, his voice sure and final. "The door is already open." He didn't wait for her answer. He turned away and walked down the pulpit steps. His footsteps echoed in the quiet church as he walked down the long center aisle. He didn't look at the people or the altar behind him. He pushed open the heavy front doors and stepped outside into the bright morning sun. The heat of the Louisiana morning hit Ed right away, but for the first time in 10 months, it didn't feel heavy. It felt clean. The heavy weight of the Heber family name, which had been on his shoulders for 30 years, was finally gone. He walked down the wide concrete steps of Bonaventure Church, leaving behind the loud yelling, the ruined reputation of Pastor Silas, and the broken form of his ex-wife behind the strong oak doors. Thomas and Claire waited for him by the black SUV at the far end of the parking lot. They didn't look like kids needing their father to fix things. They stood tall and confident. They were ready to take charge. Claire pushed off the car and ran toward him. She hugged him tightly with a strong and urgent feeling. Ed closed his eyes and hugged her back, resting his face on her shoulder. Thomas came over a moment later. He put a strong hand on Ed's back, holding his father's shoulder with deep respect. "You really did it," Thomas said calmly, his voice full of wonder. "You stood up in front of the church council and the richest families around and just let it all go. You left everything behind. I've never seen someone end a bad plan with such calm and strength." Ed pulled back a little, but kept one arm around Claire's waist. He looked at his son and smiled. It was a real, free smile that reached his eyes. "It was never mine to keep forever, Thomas," Ed said, his voice calm and steady. "I spent my whole life building a museum of pride. I thought my money was protection. I thought my calm was armor. But Annette showed me that if you share your stronghold with a bad influence, the walls only trap you with the problem. I gave away the money because that was all she cared about. She didn't want a husband. She didn't want a family. She wanted a huge bank account to live out her childish dreams. I just took away the money." Claire wiped her eyes, her face turning cold and strong. "She's totally ruined, Dad," Claire said, her voice sharp and clear. "I looked back while we were walking down the aisle. Her precious Pastor Silas was scrambling to get away. The church leaders looked at her like she was wild and out of control. She gave up her marriage, her good name, and her kids, all for a $5 million payout that wasn't real. She's a joke." "What will happen to her now?" Ed asked quietly. "I don't have any control over the estate anymore. The West Wing is yours now. The foundation is yours too. Her future is now up to both of you," Thomas said, crossing his arms and tightening his jaw. "I already took care of it," he added, his voice sharp and clear. "While you were driving here this morning, I called Arthur. The eviction papers were prepared and signed as soon as you agreed to the Vanguard Covenant last night. An hour ago, I told the estate staff to pack her expensive bags and bring them down the driveway. I had security change the codes to the main gates. I also froze all her extra credit cards. She will never be allowed inside that house again. She's cut off from the only place she ever cared about." Ed looked at his son, seeing the tough and necessary decision Thomas had made. He didn't argue or suggest being kinder. Annette had used up all the kindness this family could offer. "You did what you had to do," Ed said. "You protect this family, Thomas. You protect your sister. You don't owe anyone an apology for stopping contact with people who only bring harm." "Where will you go, Dad?" Claire asked, her eyes full of worry. "You just gave away your house and cars. You're wearing a nice suit, but I don't think you even own that watch anymore." Ed smiled softly, a warm sound in the quiet parking lot. "I packed a small bag last night," he said. "It's in the trunk of my old hunting truck. I'm going up to the parish lake. I know a fisherman who rents a small, simple cabin by the water. It doesn't have fancy furniture or any helpers, but it's peaceful, Claire, perfectly quiet. I plan to sit on the porch, cast a fishing line, and finally get a good night's rest." "We'll come visit," Thomas promised, shaking Ed's hand firmly. "I'll bring the charity records. You can sit on that porch and teach me how to run it." "I'd like that very much," Ed smiled. He hugged Claire tightly one last time and patted Thomas on the shoulder. Then he turned and walked to his old truck parked at the far end of the lot. He didn't look back at the church tower or the life he was leaving behind. He slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. 2 hours later, Annette walked slowly along the side of the highway. She had been forced to walk the 3 miles from the church to the Hebert estate because her rideshare app had declined her frozen credit card. Her clean white dress was now dirty and soaked with sweat. Her hair was messy and stuck to her face. At last, she reached the large iron gates of the big house. The gates were locked tight. Sitting alone on the gravel outside the gate were her 3 heavy travel bags. Thomas and Claire were standing on the other side of the gate. They stood close together, looking through the bars at the woman who was tired and breathing hard on the ground. "Open the gates!" Annette shouted, her voice breaking. She gripped the hot iron bars and shook them hard. "You cannot keep me out of my own house. I am your mother. I gave birth to you. You owe me half this place. You owe me money." Thomas did not react. He looked at her with a cold, hard stare. "This is not your house," he said quietly but sharply. "It hasn't been your house since you made bad choices on that river trip and smiled for Mari's camera. You are just a stranger here now. Your husband gave away everything to make sure you would not get a penny, and your so-called friend Marie took the money you took from my charity and left town. You have no money, no friends, no family." "You can't do this to me," Annette cried, dropping to her knees on the rough ground. The anger in her voice was gone, replaced by weak begging. "Claire, please, I'm your mother. I made a mistake. I was just sad. I just wanted to be free." Claire stepped forward to the bars. She looked down at her mother on the ground. "You wanted to be free?" Claire said, without any kindness. "For 10 months? You said you were trapped like a bird. 10 months you wrote fake diaries about how badly you were treated by a man who gave you everything. You thought you could trick us, Mom. You thought you could come back here, cry fake tears, and make us believe the man who worked so hard to protect us from your troubles was the bad one. But you are no clever person. You are just a selfish old woman who learned too late that the world won't give you anything for bad choices." Annette looked up through the bars, her mouth moving, but no words coming out. "I spent 10 months trying to understand." Claire's voice grew louder and firm. "I spent 10 months asking why my mother would ruin our family for foolish things. Today I finally understood. It is not about us. You are an empty space that pulls everything in but gives nothing back. You take everything around you. You hurt the people who care for you, and yet you feel empty inside. We don't owe you anything." Annette held on to the bars tightly, her fingers turning white. "Where am I supposed to go? I have nothing. How will I live?" "We don't care," Thomas said without feeling. "Take your things and leave." He turned away. Claire gave her mother one last cold look, then walked off too. Annette dropped to her knees in the dirt, calling out their names, begging them to come back, but they kept walking. They went up the long, neat driveway, disappearing into the shade of the big house, leaving her all alone in the hot sun. Slowly, her hands trembling, Annette stood up. She grabbed the handle of her heavy trunk. The wheels made noise on the gravel as she turned her back to the gates and pulled her bag down the empty road. She finally had the freedom she had been asking for. Far away, the sun was setting by the lake near the parish. Ed sat quietly on the wooden porch of a small fishing cabin. He wore a simple cotton shirt and old jeans. In his hand was a cold glass of water. There were no meetings to go to, no need to protect any name or pride, only the soft sound of water touching the dock and the calm beat of his own breathing. He closed his eyes, leaned his head back, and let the peaceful feeling fill him. Looking at the still water, Ed thought that true strength isn't always being loud or strong. Sometimes the most powerful thing is to walk away and let the truth tell its own story. What do you think about Ed's choice to give all his business to his children? Was it a smart move, or did he give up too much of himself to teach Annette a lesson? Share your thoughts on Annette's fall and Ed's freedom in the comments below. If you liked watching this proud, tricky woman get what was coming to her, subscribe to the Infidelity Director channel for more stories about betrayal and justice. Thanks for watching, and remember, never let anyone make you feel stuck in your own life. The key to your freedom is always with you.